Good morning, sports fans. Brewers lost, unfortunately, yesterday. Got edged out by the Pirates there. 1-0.
I am in recovery. I'm in recovery.
Oh, well, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Pleasure to see you, young Nick.
Yeah. What's happening? It's a Friday
Well,
morning, a week into your retirement.
I'm 2 weeks in now,
Is
Nick.
it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Where's the time going? Oh my gosh. See, look at
yeah,
this. Summer is going way too fast.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just, our thing that we did for several weeks about the three modes of grief.
Yeah.
I now am just on the verge of publishing that.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, the Garden of Healing, I'm calling it.
Oh, man, you didn't even tease me on that one.
I
Garden of
know.
Healing, you left a surprise. I love it. That's
Well, that's
awesome.
because I it just came to me.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
happens. What happens is I meditate and then I get up off the um, meditation cushion and like an answer has come to me.
yeah. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
So
I
it's
love that.
there, and I got a beautiful cover. I have a
Oh,
friend who's a wonderful artist over in England, Lucy and Lucy
yeah.
Hinton. Yeah, and I'll present it to you at some point.
Okay. I'm
It's
excited.
really beautiful. It should be able to publish this thing in a few days.
That's
I've
so
got to
cool.
figure out how to get the you know how Amazon they force you to get the correct sizing and
Yeah,
pixels and all that. We're gonna have
of course.
Mary's gonna help me with that. So
So Lucy Hinton you said is an artist over in England. Okay.
England,
Is that her profession is art, or is this
yes,
something? Okay. Wow. Very cool.
yeah.
What
Hmm.
kind of style is her art? And I'm
Oh
just
my
curious.
goodness, really interesting. Um, coming up with words to describe that.
It's okay.
It's very almost like fairy tale-ish.
Oh, okay. A little whimsical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Awesome.
when she shows me stuff, she showed me about 10 paintings that she's done. And each time it takes my breath away a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I said, could you do a cover for me? And I told her what it was. And then about 2 days later, she had this spectacular thing.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Now, okay. So you said publishing, and you're going to publish you're talking about Amazon specs.
Yeah.
Um, what does they're pretty particular, right?
Yeah.
So is this a booklet?
Yes.
Okay,
25-page workbook.
gotcha. Workbook. There we go. Workbook. That's what I
So
was.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what she sent me
Hmm.
and put it on there and see if they'll accept it. And when they reject it, then they'll probably come back and say, we need this, this, and this.
Yeah, yeah.
Notes.
That makes
Notes for how
sense.
to yeah.
Huh?
So
What a
that's what's going
process.
on here.
That's really
And
cool. I'm so excited.
resting, sleeping, reading a great book, Letters and Papers from Prison by Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Huh?
You know
I'm not.
about him?
No, I
Um,
don't know. Yeah.
he was a Lutheran pastor who um, was part of the resistance against Hitler,
Okay.
Nazi Germany. And I don't think he was actually involved in the decision and attempt to assassinate Hitler, but people that he was intimately involved with did.
Oh,
They
gotcha.
attempted to kill Hitler
Mm-hmm.
when things were coming clear what he was up to, and he was hung for it.
Okay. Wow.
So he's writing these letters to his family, his best friends. It's really I'm just really engrossed in it.
Yeah. I just looked
Great
it up, and
soul.
I just looked it up, and I'm adding that to my to be read list right now. That's awesome.
You're quick with the computer, aren't you?
Yeah, I try.
When we were in the so-called green room before we came on here, I mentioned Paul Skeens, The Great Pirates.
Yes, yes.
You looked him up instantly and had a picture of him in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that sounds like a really fascinating story, and I can only imagine with so much interest in that era, World War II, and there's it's made for very good media, whether it be through streaming shows or blockbuster hits like Oppenheimer.
Yes.
I can see that growing and developing into some sort of memoir and sentimental movie or
Yeah. I
yeah.
know that there was a documentary, but yeah, that would
Uh-huh.
be really great. A blockbuster about Bonhoeffer,
Yeah,
especially these days when we're all thinking about how we're going to resist things.
right, right, exactly. Oh gosh, that's a that is definitely a topic in the Metacrisis, but I don't know if we're ready to get back into that yet. So, what do you have in store for us? I think we left off. Well, actually, yeah. What do you have in store for us? I think we
Yes,
left off
yes.
a little bit.
First thing I wanted to do, Nick, is I wanted to do a summary of where we've been so far in this podcast for people that are catching up.
Okay.
Yeah, or people that are watching for the first time or second time and sort of gotten maybe lost in in the weeds,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's life,
So
right?
yeah, right, right. So just to give people an idea of what the Path podcast has been up till now. Is this episode 9?
Yes, it is. Well,
Yeah,
it's episode 9. Yeah, it is. I think I didn't label last episode as episode 9, but we did go from 7 to the special of your reflections on career and
yeah.
hospice.
I
And
think you did put episode 8 on that.
yeah, yeah. So,
So what we've been up till now is we had an introduction in which I talked about our aspirations, and then we did maybe 4 episodes about uh, the 3 modes of grief, which are now coming out in a booklet form, a workbook form. I'm going to call. Did I just tell you this, or was that off air?
no, that was here. Yeah, yeah. You're
Okay.
good. You saved the
Okay.
surprise for me here. The Garden of Healing, right? Yeah,
The Garden of Healing.
yeah,
And yes, I just told you that. That's right. I can't remember if I told you that live or on off air, but I told it to you live.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're coming up. We did about 4 episodes on that, or 5. I can't remember exactly what it was. Um, and then we did one standalone
Yeah.
on meditation.
Hmm.
So then we started in on the Metacrisis, and really, the reason I did the grief and the one standalone on meditation before we got to the Metacrisis, there was a method to my madness. Is to so that we could kind of brace ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was reading between your lines there. Um, this resiliency. Uh,
Yeah,
you know, whether it be difficulty, grief. I mean, we all need these skills and awareness, not of the situation necessarily, but sometimes of our own internal conflicts as we navigate through them. Right? Yeah.
precisely. Just a second here. I'm getting some black tea.
Yeah. And so, for those of you who are tuning in after the fact, John and I are doing something a little bit differently. This is our first morning show. Neither one of us ever probably aspired to be the, Nick and John in the morning on 93.7. But here we are, trying to overcome our boogers in our eyes and get that
Exactly.
coffee and tea on board. Yeah. So this
Right.
is our first
Uh,
morning show. Bear with us.
yes. Yes. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah. What's that? Joe in the morning or whatever that it was with Mika Brzezinski. You know, Joe
Oh, there's.
Scarborough. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's us.
Nice. That's out in Milwaukee.
No, that's national.
Oh, okay. It's syndicated. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Pay us 10 million a year and we'll do it, right?
I don't know if I'd take that. I'm not that much of a morning person. I think they start at like what, five in the morning or maybe early.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
a little rough.
Yeah, that's rough. No
That's a
thanks.
little rough. So yeah, then we did last week. We talked about what I learned as a hospice chaplain
Yeah.
because I've retired and I did 14 years at it. And we're
Wow.
going to finish that up this week.
Yeah.
Um, and we're also going to continue talking about the Metacrisis if there's time.
Yeah.
I have it prepared, but if we just want to delve into what's left of what I learned as a hospice chaplain and have that be the episode, we can start in on the next thing the following week.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
like it.
what I said last time, I think I said six things out of the
Mhm.
10, and I learned hundreds of things. But you
Yeah.
know, and you know, the Garden of Healing workbook summarizes things that I learned too about grieving. But what I said last time was the six things were how much history impacts our life trajectories. Our lives are historical artifacts deeply embedded in and altered by world events, whether we realize it or not. That became a very powerful awareness to me that I hadn't really thought of before.
Yeah.
That the currents of history we're all swept up in. We kind of have the illusion that that's not the case, but they really are.
Right.
Two, how 99.9% of all people die peacefully.
Mm.
And the reason I share that one too is for people who are watching or thinking about their own death someday.
Yeah.
It's going to wind up being a very gentle departure.
Right.
I said 99.9%. It's 99.999%. I saw two people not die peacefully
Oh
out of four,
yeah.
out of 3,300. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
3,300.
yeah. And of course that's people who are dying of natural causes. Of course there's shootings and car accidents that aren't peaceful deaths, but even
Right.
those might be in the final moments,
Yeah.
that you go out peacefully too. Um, Number three was how my assumptions that people are sad to die and their loved ones are sad that they are dying are proven wrong again and again.
Mm.
People's attitudes towards death of themselves and their loved ones are as variable as fingerprints.
Oh, I love that.
Me too. Me too. And I learned it. When I started, and I would hear, okay, they've just learned an hour ago that Joe's dying.
Uh-huh.
Now go in there and introduce yourself. And I went in to every situation thinking, oh, this is going to be grim and this is going to be glum. They're
Yeah.
going to be traumatized. And the variation of reactions was truly a lesson to me.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that people still try to feed the dying even in their final days. Just kind of a funny little thing, but I always noticed it. The body shuts down. They're not eating anymore. They're not consuming food anymore. And people are still saying, here, have a roast beef sandwich. That'll do you good.
Yeah. Or even coming from the best of place of like, oh, I brought you your favorite ice cream,
Yeah.
and really like it's like I know that you're on your way out, and I just want you to have a little bit of this joy of something you that was you know you, um, and it's like yeah, and I suppose if you're dying and you have your consciousness, that would be a really touching and thoughtful moment that you can, appreciate. But um, the actual idea of consuming it is probably the last thing they want to do. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well intended.
Yes.
Um, and then the next one is that communication amongst many families is poor, often out of an attempt to protect one another from truth. This exacts the enormous cost of cutting off farewell conversations.
This
And
one,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, this one I have. This one I've thought more on, and I still have some difficulty because I see the connection with communication, and then the costs of farewell conversations. And as I think about my own avoidance of farewell conversations, and I use that word avoidance, and maybe it's that, maybe it's, I don't know, subconsciously. Um, and I wonder how communication has played a part in my own avoidance of farewell conversations, or maybe thoughts of not wanting to go have that moment.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what can you analyze me now? But yeah, maybe it's a personal development and view on death attitude that is more the factor versus any communication. So I'm curious, do you think the communication might be avoiding the overall, like, the reality of it, so then individuals who need to know that reality are not prepared for that farewell?
That's it.
Okay.
And for me, what I hope that I'm going to do when I'm told that I'm dying is that I'm going to be highly communicative with Mary, my partner, and with my two daughters and my handful of really good friends, and with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a really great opportunity to teach them about the sanctity of life,
Yeah.
life that I have had up to now, to say goodbye, to affirm to each one of them what they mean,
Oh, I
how
like
much
that.
value, how much I value and treasure them, and
Yeah.
also to say this is what I'm going through, so that they have a frame of reference when it comes their time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a you also touch upon, I mean, we go back to the modes of grief, and one of the things we of course we're talking about the healing and the aftermath of the loss of a loved one, whereas there is work, as in your a lot of your work, and I think what I'm getting from here is you're shepherding or stewarding, people through hopefully a healthier path of communicating, and accepting the situation, that they're dying or their loved one is dying, and hopefully that is kind of the catalyst for some of this improved communication.
That's right.
um, yeah, because as you now I think about this a little bit more, and you mentioned your children and grandchildren, and I think
Yeah.
that uh, we all think about our death in the moment of this life. Like, I think about, oh, okay, well, my death, is it going to be when I'm 88, or is it going to be when I'm, 48? Um, and I think about the conversations I would have if it was sooner with my younger children, right?
Mm.
And I think that this communication aspect can be a really powerful thing, especially with our young children, and preparing them for that grief and loss, and in life without their parent.
Hmm.
I could see parent child grandchildren communication being one of the biggest costs of cutting those farewell conversations, just because, like you said, that protect, like, especially with children, we think we got to protect them,
Hmm.
and really that's they're going to be, as we talked about before, past episodes, part of people who have lost their loved ones, close ones, and yeah,
Yeah, and I just want to, when it comes my time, I want to impart radiant tenderness. That will be my
ooh, I like it. Impart
goal.
radiant tenderness. That's lovely. I
Yeah,
like it.
with relating to this subject, because the media, our favorite whipping boy, but the national uh, gestalt, I guess would be the word.
Yeah,
It is, oh my God, death,
right.
it's horrible, and you got to be badass about it or something. I don't and yeah, that's going to be mine.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then that people have endlessly fascinating lives, and yet they are somehow discouraged from seeing themselves as such. People have within themselves what has been called a daemon or muse or spark of divinity, often covered in the soot of our history and culture and society. An excellent medical work, chaplain, and social work is to see that daemon and speak to it, calling it out before the patient dies. This often leads to the patient dying with a newfound radiance.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's maybe for nurses and social workers and chaplains to hear more than the average person, but
Yeah.
that is, that's what I came to evolve to be the understanding of what a hospice chaplain and social worker and nurse do,
Hmm.
and the team. We
Yeah.
had a we had a receptionist who's now passed away, but he was a delightful person, Cliff. Um, he was possibly the best among us in relating to the patients and the families with
Uh,
great, great kindness. He was an interesting character because he had a bit of body odor about him. He had bad teeth,
yeah.
um, but everybody loved Cliff.
Uh,
You know, and they'd say, "Yeah, the chaplain was good, the social worker was good, the nurse was good, but that receptionist."
that's awesome.
I know, it was great. Cliff, may he rest in peace. All
Yeah.
right, and he did that.
Yeah.
All right. So now I've got four more. Are you ready for the four?
Oh, wait. So, and then we did talk about the doulas, right?
Did we talk about the doulas?
We did talk about death doulas. Yep.
Glad to
Or
know.
we, well, maybe we didn't. I don't know. Maybe I brought it up before we talked about it. Let's recap it at least and go over it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a movement called death doulas in the culture now. I think we did do it,
Yeah.
but we'll bring it up as part of the recap, which gives me hope. It could potentially run aground on lack of rigor in the training. Yes, I remember saying this last time, and accreditation. But if it avoids that pitfall, and death doulas are able to be paid by insurance companies, they could bring much needed new life into the hospice industry.
Mm,
The industry has become overly corporate, with the cost being that frequently the charting is considered more important than the actual care. And
yeah.
conformity of practice is considered more important than intuition, creativity, and courage in caretaking.
Yeah.
Death doulas could address that as an alternative hospice model. An ideal death doula and death doula community would be grounded in meditation, embodiment practices, depth psychology, and an ongoing conversation, and more thoroughgoing feedback from patients and their families than is currently the norm. This would not only impact the death trade in the industrialized world, but would spill over into additional transformations. Now, one big thing here is I'm mindful of the history of hospice.
Yeah.
It was started in the early 70s in England. And there was actually, of course, hospice in the Middle Ages, but it was then fell away, and there wasn't any hospice. but there was a pioneer woman who started hospice in the 70s. And then it came over to the United States. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you know her,
Hmm.
Five
Yeah.
Stages.
Yeah.
She energized it over here in the mid to late 70s.
Okay.
Um, an acquaintance of mine was one of the pioneers here in America, the Reverend Mike Stoltman.
Hmm.
Wild, possibly the wildest person I've ever known.
Huh.
Yes, he was. He was amazingly. You'd spend time with him, and it was like, I can't even describe him. It was like Truman Capote meets Jack Nicholson, and he's a priest.
That's crazy.
But the early hospice movement was part of back to nature 60s and 70s movement. You had natural childbirth, you had the rise of meditation in the world, you had new forms of music breaking out all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, the women's movement, the gay rights movement, the Black Power movement,
Right.
all this was converging, and hospice was part of that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it has contracted, in my view, is contracted in the sense that what happens is, and people talk about this with music, something really cool starts, and corporate entities see that and take it over, and then
Uh,
infill and put their own uh, restrictions on it.
yeah.
Um, and so it's now become a big industry.
Right.
Somebody calls it the death industry. A guy named Stephen Jenkinson calls it.
Yeah. Well, and there's the industry, and then you hear the terms of industrial complex. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, death industrial complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just realized that says dick, but anyway. Um, oh,
you are getting ready for your vacation, aren't you?
well, I mean, it's it's kind of a negative term, the death industrial
Yeah.
complex. And I'm like, yeah, it's the dick. Yeah.
Very good. Love it. Love it. Love it. So I view death duels as sort of a return to the roots of hospice.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we talked about was the accessibility of something, because when we think of doulas and birth now, um, we
Yes.
think of sort of let me just say, a very granola or in
Yeah.
privileged access. um,
Yes.
and even in the nursing community, I worked in medical facilities, and yes, doulas. I knew some people who became doulas and midwives, amazing, awesome people. And I think midwives is kind of the middle ground of some of that too, where you get a little bit of the true medical professional, but also that in-home sort of whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I knew some doulas, and they were amazing people. And the hard part, as you mentioned, was, did they have the right insurance? Did they have the right money? And then also for these doulas to work with the insurance complex. That's the real dick. Um, the insurance complex, and
Yes.
getting on their panels and be accepted by them, and the barrier for entry to be covered by insurance as a doula in general. So as you mentioned very wisely, and able to be paid by insurance companies.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. I've had two young women contact me in the last 3 or 4 months saying friends of mine that are friends with them sent them on to me.
yeah,
And I know that there's going to be a third one speaking to me very soon. Somebody contacted me and said that she will be contacting me. And the whole thing is they are idealistic and wholesome
yeah,
and willing and desiring to do this, but they don't know how to. do it. And, I've got a year of death doula training, they
Hmm.
say. And I'm like, oh, Lord. I mean, yep, that's great. I mean, I love the curriculum that I see online of death doula training,
Yeah.
at least from one school out in Boulder. But it's a hurdle because I had to do sort of a mainstream educational approach.
Yeah.
I have a master's degree plus a lot of extra stuff.
Hmm.
So it's something we're
Yeah.
going to have to work through.
Well, I hope, and honestly, I think the burden, unfortunately, will lie on the education programs. Honestly, if they want to be successful in navigating the nuances of the Western insurance world of acceptance. So whether that be navigating, like for example, when we had I'm gonna sorry, I don't want to tangent too long here, but when one of my daughters was born, my first daughter, we had feeding issues and we contacted a lactation consultant to help with some stuff, and they come in home because that was a big thing. You go to the hospital and it's not the environment which you are naturally going to be in, and they get it going and they're like, oh, got a great feed, they're doing good for like a couple of minutes. Well, it wasn't enough. They're like, we need to, it's not working. Let's get into the nitty gritty of in the home, in the natural setting, the all the elements of environment and the energy, the vibe of the home, whatever it may be, right? Because all those things play into these little kiddos' minds as they're feeding. And so someone came. It was pretty costly for an hour or two that we ended up doing. But we did submit it to insurance, that what we paid this person. We submitted it for reimbursement and we did get that. But it's a lot of work. So whether it be the training needs to include this for the doulas to say, hey, here's how you navigate getting paid. Do they have a flexible spending account? Do FSAs or HSAs cover this? Can we lobby for that to be covered as an expense? Can we? So I do think a little bit of it is going to fall on the industry or the groups of people educating and promoting death doulas. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be a great topic for the future. Have some guest appearances with your friends here.
Yeah. I would love to be, if I had limitless energy
Yeah.
and limitless time, I'd love to be an educator of death doulas.
Oh
That would be,
yeah.
that would be great. Oh, there's a phone. We can just ignore that. All
Hey,
right.
this is live. It's real.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I forgot that the phone, when his phone stops ringing, no, I will not give money to the firemen's union.
Did we mention John's retired? I think we did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next one,
All right.
shall we?
Yes.
Um, this one is something that I thought about all the time. That there frequently does seem to be some deathbed intimation of a reality larger than the current material world that we all see as reality, which I and others call the consensus trance. The
Mm,
most, oh, and here's a quote from Einstein: the most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mystical. It is the sower of all true art and science. He or she to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. To know what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties can comprehend only in their most primitive forms. This knowledge, this feeling, is at the center of true religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I belong to the ranks of devoutly religious.
mm. Mystical.
So, What'd you say?
Oh, mystical.
Yeah.
I like that. The most beautiful emotion we can experience is mystical. Yeah.
It's very interesting because this Bonhoeffer book that I'm reading, Letters and Papers from Prison, as he's nearing his death at the hands of the Nazis, they're getting ready to hang him. He sounds very similar to Einstein.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there is. When I think of this, where do I see this experience, and can I see it in a situation of death, dying, and grief? Um, is in exercises of gratitude, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Makes a lot of sense to me.
as you begin to appreciate the little things as being truly magnificent, even though they seem so simple, and yet all the little pieces and parts that come into play to make something happen, um, and this is I'm going to the Oregon coast here today, right? And one of
Yeah.
the things I love about the Oregon coast is, and I don't go because it's so commercialized now, but
Oh, really?
and busy, is the Tillamook Ice Creamery. It was a fond memory in my younger years of going to the Tillamook Ice Creamery. But in this spirit of mysticism and wonder and gratitude,
Mm.
is so that family member, that example of you brought my favorite ice cream to my deathbed, but I can't eat. Um, but if you can truly think of the effort, the act, every little step entailed, like from them being thoughtful to getting your favorite ice cream, to that ice cream, why it's your favorite because it has this nostalgia of being from this place in Tillamook where you visited the factory, to the flavor, the richness, to where they got it from, the cows, that, and you just realize like that little simple thing is it's incredible, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Have you read Thich Nhat Hanh?
What's up? Have I
Have you
read
read
Nat
Thich Nhat
Han?
Hanh?
I've read some quotes and like little verse things from them, but never like sat and read one of
Yeah,
the books.
because
So
what you were saying just there was the kind of thing that he does.
yeah.
Mindful meditation with gratitude.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. My
Hmm.
brother's really big into mindful gratitude meditation.
There you go.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay. So there's your Einstein quote.
I love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then I just had to say um, one of my observations. Mainstream religion is to death what mainstream broadcast news is to the reality of humans in the trenches of life. So I don't know about you, Nick, if you sit and watch um, CNN or ABC or NBC or MSNBC or Fox or whatever,
Hmm.
they talk about this stuff and then you turn it off and you're in a different world than they're in.
Yeah.
And I, I'm not a person that trashes mainstream religion like most people do, but I see the gross inadequacy of Western religion as being that they give you um, concepts to believe in,
Hmm.
doctrinal propositions. God is three
Right.
in one type of thing, and so and then they walk away, and that's supposed to be it. You
Yeah.
know, believe this, and you'll feel okay. Well, they're asking you to give intellectual assent to an abstraction.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's very well put.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I'm in the trenches here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not as black and white as it it seems there's not even just shades of gray, but several thousand shades of colors in all of that.
Yeah.
And you must leave room. I wouldn't say for interpretation because some people go too far with that, but room for exploration.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah. So, my spiritual practice, in contrast, I don't. I'm not required to believe
Yeah.
anything, but it's practice, and you're investigating for yourself. So, really good work among the dying. Uh, and this isn't just for the professionals, but this is for loved ones who have their family on the loved one on the deathbed.
Hmm.
Is for family who have loved ones on the deathbed. Is um, investigate without telling them to believe anything. What are you experiencing? What is this for you?
Right.
Feel free. Feel free to look into this, and no right answers, no wrong answers. Just what's
Yeah.
your experience.
Yeah.
But the one thing that you're required to believe is that investigating is worthwhile.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that's one thing that I learned. Chaplaincy. I'm called a hospice chaplain. I like to think of myself as a spiritual care provider as
Yeah.
opposed to chaplain because it feels different. But for the insurance company, the aforementioned, um, I have to be, I have to be a chaplain.
Oh, isn't that ironic that they in this world and times of sort of keeping spirituality and that aspect of humanity sort of like separate, and I say this because we find traces of it in our you know Pledge of Allegiance or our on our dollar bill, and Christianity sort of interweaves. But in this situation, the insurance, like modern day insurance, is like, no, you have to be a religious term position of more of a traditional sense for us to pay and to accredit you and,
Yeah,
and all that. Whereas like we're just talking about death doulas, and it's like they can't even get in. And it's like, wait, you want to only include the religious based
yeah,
focus profession versus the broader human, holistic profession. That just blows my mind.
it does. I had a nursing home director angry at me.
Yeah.
She goes, "I've been seeing you come in here 4 or 5 times talking to this same woman, and you're laughing with her, and you're telling stories. You're hearing her stories, and you haven't been religious once. When are you going to
Oh,
do your chaplain work?"
when are you going to pray with them? Right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I said, "She doesn't want to be prayed with.
yeah, yeah.
So why would I force that down her?
Right.
Other
Right.
people want it, and so I do." Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Shall we move on to the final one?
Yes, we shall, I guess. If that is that where we are? We're on the final one. Wow. Okay.
Yes. Yes. And then I'll do a brief overview of what we're going to talk next time. The part that says continuation of the Metacrisis up above.
Yes. Yes.
All right. The depths of our culture's grief illiteracy is historic.
Mm.
Uh, I have known at least 5,000 individuals in my 14 years of work who actually have guilt over experiencing some sort of taboo emotion, whatever it may be, related to their loss. This illiteracy springs from our emotional illiteracy and leads
Yeah.
in turn to dissociation from many other realities, intimate, personal, historical, and reflective, collective.
Wow. Well, yeah, I feel that so deeply. Um, and I'm just thinking, what are the feelings I have guilt or shame over? And I think sometimes I have guilt over being guilty. I mean, feeling guilty, you know? Oh, I thought about them that one time and I should have called because, I didn't stay true to myself. It's my thing where if I think about someone, I send them a text or I give them a call because if they were worth entering to my thoughts that day, they're worth communicating with. Um, and if you lose somebody, that for me is haunting, um, in ways of guilt. And there's this, and then I feel guilty over being guilty. I don't know. That's
I
yeah,
hear you. I hear you. You're chasing your tail eventually.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, then I can definitely associate. I can bring that to that emotional illiteracy. Um, Sometimes we don't know how to interpret, process, verbalize what's going on with us very well, and the approach is to avoid. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Compost Crusaders outside, and I forgot to put my compost outside. Oops. Oh well, next
Is
week.
that what they're called? Compost Crusaders?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
We just call it yard waste.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You a
cool.
yard waste collective, man?
Well, it's the city's
Oh yeah,
garbage
this
service. They call it yard waste, and
I
it's a yard
forgot to
waste bin and yard
compost.
waste service. And yeah, but they have a full branded thing, compost collector. That's cool.
Compost Crusader.
Crusaders,
Yeah.
that's even better. Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that I get is in my career, people telling me, "Yeah, I know I'm supposed to," and then they tell me what they think they're supposed to. I know I'm supposed to feel joy about him being in heaven, but I feel like he abandoned me. I know I'm supposed to feel sad about um, um, him dying, but I'm just relieved about it. I know I'm
Yeah.
supposed to. And then you talk to other people and you'd say, how are you? I'm fine. Oh, you're
Right.
fine. Then why are you?
Yeah.
I'm fine. No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would say, well, the word fine stands for FINE, feelings I'm not expressing.
That's right. Feelings I'm not expressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, and another thing that I think about with regards to all these is that, Freud back in the 20s or whenever that was, 30s, he was writing, and even earlier, he was writing about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about his patients that he observed. And it turned out that they were a bunch of Viennese, they were white Europeans in a specific time, in a specific place, in a specific epoch of cultural history. And he universalized what he got from them as true for all of us. And, it wasn't true. It wasn't true for everybody. And I realize that that's the same for me. I have had my nose in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and surrounding environs for all this time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there is great diversity that I just haven't seen. when I was at the Brewers game yesterday, 36,700 people were there. And
Wow.
then, yeah, and I was looking at, several of them, and I was like, oh man, I could so be your hospice chaplain. If the time came, I, I've just been with so many of them.
Mhm.
I've been with 10,000 of them.
Yeah.
If you count those who have died, it's 13,000.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Yeah.
yeah, and these people just fit into that. But I don't know what would happen if I went to a Texas Rangers game in Texas. How different it would be. So all that I've learned is I realize it is embedded in one place and one time.
Well, and I think that's what's beautiful about our conversations here in
Yeah.
your work as well as the modes of grief is that it's really a good attempt. And I mean, let's just put it this way. I've lived in and grown up on the West Coast all my life. I've had a few ventures abroad when I was young and a teenager that broadened my views and worldview, I should say, to a global level. But uh, I guess I'm here to say that what we've talked about, which you've enlightened and shared your wisdom of, is very universally applicable in a lot of ways. Even though you do live in a certain moderately sized bubble, you know,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
there is a lot of application. So I do think that if you went to a Rangers game, you you
There's
might just have,
universals.
you might just have to pick up an accent, a little
Yeah, there's
drawl.
universals. There's universals. There's particulars and there's universals. And the
Yeah,
joy is kind of
yeah,
parsing them out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, there's things like whether maybe it's not the Brewers, but it's baseball and a shared love of that you can, that's a meeting ground. It's music. It's this practice of noticing mindfulness, this meditation that doesn't really care where you live or where you came from. Because it's a truth that's there for everyone to access. So I want to say something about this depths of illiteracy, and I heard you say, I don't know if an example, but you said something about I know I should, I know
Yeah,
something.
people say that as an example. I know I should be feeling. I know I should be feeling.
Yeah, yeah, and I think before, like, even that whole, and we're all guilty of this, and I'm just going to make this plug from a general mental health psychology wellness perspective, but like, should, one of the
Yeah.
worst words in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
There's so much shame, there's so much
Hmm.
expectation, there's so much guilt, there's so much in the word should alone.
Amen, brother.
There's no reason you should do anything. it's
Amen.
it's I can, I could, I choose. But
Amen. I love
this
it.
should is so toxic. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. I love
So
it. I agree heartily.
if anything comes out of people improving their emotional illiteracy today, I hope it's that they remove the word should from their
There you
vocabulary.
go. People, are you hearing us? Now,
Yeah.
when are you gonna broadcast this? Is you gonna put it to go out on
Uh,
Saturday?
So actually, because I kept with the norm, this is technically live, but it
Okay.
will be available for replay for anyone as soon as we're done here.
Hallelujah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Marvelous.
yeah,
Um, so we've got a few minutes left. I'm going to do the briefest of introductions because we're going to go back to the Metacrisis next week, 2 weeks. And
okay,
I just want to do um, as a teaser. We're not going to get into it this week, but
yeah,
the progressive spiritual tradition from which I come, which is not New Age. It's very attuned to the depths of history and of tradition, but it's also uh, contemporary. It's non-metaphysical in the sense that you don't have to believe anything about, the nature of God or the nature of salvation or anything like that. It's progressive, contemporary tradition, movement, um, is aware of the metacrisis and prepares people to cope with it with four basic shoulds. No, I'm kidding. Four invitations to grow in certain areas. And those areas are: wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. Wake up
Yep. Grow up.
is becoming to aware to see yourself as you truly are, as much as that's humanly possible. Grow up. There's, about developmental psychology and the,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say that in the briefest, most fundamental way, growing up is developing the capacity to have uh, great empathy, imaginative and real empathy for everybody else. To be able to get into their shoes and see the world from their
Yeah.
perspective is growing up and
Mm-hmm.
taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Don't use it as a reason to exploit them. Cleanup is a psychological thing. We're all psychological messes for a very particular reason, and we're going to get into that. And then show up is um, who you are in your family, who you are in your neighborhood. Primarily those two things. If you go to a church or a synagogue or temple or some support group or yoga class, being present for that,
Mm-hmm.
tennis club, whatever it may be. And then also means being involved in service to others.
Yeah.
Being heard, making your mature voice that's previously uh, woke up,
Yeah.
grown up, cleaned up. Now you're showing up.
Mm.
And that's what we'll talk about in depth.
Okay. I like it.
Good.
It gives a bit of a roadmap, I think. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, yeah, because when you talked about the metacrisis before and all the components of it, or facets, however you want to look at it, that there's this kind of like, well, shit, what do I do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, doom, gloom, the tower is coming down. Um, but
Exactly.
but how do we navigate and as an individual, what can I do on this big global this universe level meta crisis? Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I like it. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I'm
Um,
looking forward to working on it and preparing it and having something good to show you.
yeah, yeah. So we will embark on that in 2 weeks. I've got a busy couple weeks myself. I don't know about you, but it'll be
Not so much.
not so much. You're not stacking up the adventure list in your retirement weeks yet.
No, no.
Save that for the off season. Yeah.
Mary's birthday is coming.
Oh
It's
yeah, that's right. You said the
it's
25th.
on Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday. Okay. Okay.
So happy birthday to beloved Mary.
Happy birthday to Mary. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We did talk about that. We were having a show right before her birthday.
Hmm.
And it's oh yeah, because it's a week before my birthday. So I will have a birthday before we see each other again. That's all.
Okay. Well, I'll sing happy birthday to you.
I was going to say we could sing happy birthday to Mary today, but it is, I did mention we are doing a morning show, and we haven't quite woken up yet. So I think we'll spare our listeners our
That's a
lovely
perfect
singing
excuse.
voices. Yeah, yeah. I need some more tea. These allergies are killing me.
Not
All
to
right.
mention, I don't know about you, but I can't sing.
I am terrible. I mean, I think I'm terrible. Some people may think I'm not, but they're lying.
Right.
I do not have a good tune. No. So, um,
We wish you a happy birthday, Mary.
happy birthday, Mary. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you
And
for
happy
tuning
birthday to
in.
you, Nick, because it's
Oh,
going to happen
that's right.
before.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
All
Going
right.
back,
Peace
turning
out.
33. I wish.
Oh,
No, 43. I wish it was 33.
yeah, I hear you.
I just is going to take 10 years off. I might be able to get away with it.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah. All right. Well, you take care. Everybody listening, tuning in, watching afterward. Appreciate you. We'll see you in a couple
Good
weeks.
to be with you all.
Thanks.